Hello, and thank you for attending. Today's session, we're going to try and look at how Appspace caters for the employee experience in less than 20 minutes, which is tricky to do. But first on myself, my official title is Vice President of the Employee Communication Strategy, and I've been part of or helped to deliver over 500 intranets or intelligent workplaces, digital workplaces. The nomenclature changes, but the use cases tend to be very similar. The use cases tend to be similar, but the market has definitely evolved and the desires of customers has improved, or not improved, evolved. And I think one of the things that is very real today is that the employee experience is not just digital anymore. It's not just an intranet or an employee comms tool. It's now much more than that. It's the physical and the digital combining. And that's absolutely what Appspace is catering for. So Appspace is a suite of products, but it sits under one platform and every single thing talks. So whether or not I'm trying to consume the content in the intranet on my desktop, or whether I'm on the way to the office and consuming it by the mobile app, or even within Teams on my mobile. But also if I want to go to the office, then I can go on to my intranet or my phone and I can book a desk. I can see who else is going to be in the office that day. I can automatically get the QR code to enter the car park or to enter the building. I can book that space in the meeting room so that me and 3 or 4 other colleagues can catch up and have a meeting and know that we're not going to be pestered and have to move rooms. And if it's a room I've never been to before, I can even find my way via wayfinding. So bringing all of the physical and the digital together is proving to be very successful for our customers and really uniting it underneath one banner, underneath one product. I like to start when you're building solutions to understand the problem. And there was a report that came out about 3 or 4 months ago in the Financial Times that I think perfectly illustrated this. It was only a North American report, but it looked at what is the employee experience gap? What are the desires from an employee when they work for an organization? And there's the usual things. Salaries number one, understanding the culture and the mantra of the organization they work for is highly placed. But number 2 was flexibility. In fact, the article went on to say that 40% of USA workers would take a pay cut of 5% or more to retain the flexibility they perceived to have or had during COVID. And a further 9% of them would actually trade up to 20% of their salary to have that same level of flexibility. So catering for users when they're on the go, when they're working from home, or of course when they come into our physical workplace is a key component to ensuring a happy, productive workforce. So at Appspace, we build for the end user. We try to cater in everything we do to be a design first and to really focus on the user experience above all else. And that really manifests itself into sort of 2 sides of the coin. Reaching users, we know, in fact, we did a report, which we'll share with you at the end of this session, looking at what employees want. And the good news is employees do want communication. They want to understand the organization's policies, procedures, cultural kind of ideas. And communications is a key part of that. So being able to reach those people wherever they are, whether they're on their mobile, whether they're on desktop, or indeed when they go to the office and they walk past that big screen, or when they use the kiosk machine. So communications is a key component. But also when you go to the office, making sure that the 2 worlds collide. We've got customers such as GlaxoSmithKline who have invested heavily in making sure they've got, I believe it's called the healthiest building in the world. So the experience in the workplace is as good as the digital one as well. And digital is often, can often mean many different things, but I think the biggest challenge we find in global organizations is the digital front door changes. What that means is some users might access their content via Teams. In fact, they might live inside of Teams or Slack. And some users may live inside of email. They may do everything inside of email. I tend not to read that many emails. I would prefer that you hit me on a Teams or a Slack. Alternatively, some people will live in the intranet. They will go to the intranet, they'll find everything in the intranet or the employee comms tools, and they'll get all of their data there. And what we're trying to say at Appspace is it shouldn't matter. The digital front door should be a facilitator to consume and find the content you need to get your job done and also feel part of the organization. So bringing all of that together in a cohesive manner is key. And similarly, when they go to the office, they should also find the same information. You could be able to go to the meeting room and know that it's you in that room and give the information you need for that meeting, or walk past the screen and find the information as you're in the cafeteria about that building or about your role or your department. So again, tying all of this together is proving to be very successful for our customers. And what Appspace does very well is we allow the end user to create content and distribute it everywhere. Now, we call this multi-channel, omnichannel, multi-channel. There's many different terms being bandied around, but multi-channel for me is understanding where your users are and evolving and changing how you target them. So using AI, using analytics, you can understand and learn from how your users consume content, where they consume content, and how they consume content. Do they read it on the video wall? Do they scan the QR code and listen to it via the audio generation? So understanding this through analytics and then using AI to make recommendations allows our multi-channel approach to be a lot smarter. And in a lot of organizations, it's a fact of life that you have multiple tools. HR like using Workday or similar tools, and sometimes they may use that for communications. You've got that one guy in IT who likes creating content in SharePoint. No one likes creating content in SharePoint, but let's say you have got one guy who likes creating content in SharePoint. How do we reach people outside of SharePoint? How do we reach that frontline worker who is consuming it on a digital sign or via his BYOD device? And what Appspace can do is we can take all of these data sources, we can orchestrate the content, redistribute it, and just like I said before, learn and understand from the analytics and the AI to make sure that the targeting is smarter. All of this done in a completely frictionless way so that the administrator doesn't have to go and nitpick through thousands of different analytical metrics to understand and decide how to move forward, or doesn't have to individually republish target in 3 or 4 or 5 different platforms. And that's something I think we're doing very, very well. Okay, and with that, dive straight into the demo. So this is the homepage that I like. And this homepage, I'm going to walk you through and explain why I like it. But at any time, we could change this to be a single column or a double column. We could change the colors or the logo. So it's a very, very flexible platform, but it's designed to be completely codeless. You don't have to be a developer or an engineer to understand how to use our product. And of course, it works on mobile or on desktop. This is a quick preview of the mobile app. I can have different sections. In fact, this product was designed for mobile first, so I can even determine which tab or which of the columns is the first thing you see when you log in. And I can have a different look and a different feel based if I am a frontline worker who doesn't necessarily need 3 columns. And very quickly, just to show you how this is administered, to change those looks and those feels and those layouts, it's completely codeless. So if I come in here to the demo I'm showing you and I want to change the logo, I click on the logo. I upload a new logo. I change the size. I zoom in, I zoom out, and it all happens real time. I can even see exactly what I'm seeing as an end user, both on web or mobile. I can change the size, the color of the layout. I can say, you know what? I don't want 3 columns. I want 1 column, and I'm going to delete all the other widgets, or I'm going to move them. And I don't want 2 blocks of the carousel. I want 3 or 4 or 5 or 6. And I want this column down here, block 5, to just contain the live events. Or I want block 4 to only show social, and we're going to pull in feeds that are only from communities, that are also only posts or questions or polls. So again, very, very flexible to be very granular with how you choose the layout for your end user. This is something an only administrator can do, but with that, as an administrator, this is the layout I like. And I like it for 2 reasons. Number one, we all now live on 13-inch MacBooks. We're all creating content and delivering content on smaller screens. So making sure that every part of the homepage really resonates with the end user is key. Real estate has never been more valuable on the homepage. And because of that, we can target everything to the end user based on the navigation or these widgets. For example, if I was a new user, I would see a widget that, because I joined in the last 90 days, we know this, and we can change the widgets here that show onboarding information. And the navigation can show onboarding policies and procedures. The navigation can be completely different with mega menus that are targeted to me in my language. So everything is dynamic in this product. As I go through, the left-hand side is the team space, and this is events for my team. Now, a team can be a department, it can be a location, it can be many different things. But effectively, the left-hand side here, this widget here, is team-based events. Further down, there's a few more team bits of information. I work with the sales team, I get their leaderboard. There's a nice little feedback form to feel how in my department we're finding the intranet, what is it we value, what do we like most, etc., and some jobs that might be relevant for my team or my role. The middle section is more akin to a traditional intranet. I've set up a carousel to be very simple. I've got a global one, which is basically a channel called global. So everyone sees the same content, although we all see it in our language. We are using Gen AI for language translations, which is proving to be very, very successful. It gets the nuances of language better than traditional Azure or AWS translation tools. And the right-hand side is a tab just for me. This is my news or my content that is for me. But of course, as you saw before in the administration panel, I can choose anything I want in these widgets for my end users to consume. Beneath that, I have what we call the share box, and this allows me to share content, both like posts, questions, polls, events, and even praises. And events in our world, of course, because we are Appspace, can be physical or can be digital. I can create the sales meeting here and I can choose it to be in London, but I can also just click show more and choose a Teams link. That will automatically create it because I have a Teams access or a Teams account, and it will know that as my user when I've logged in. If I'm not a Teams user, I'm a Zoom user or a Google Meet user, I have the same options. For the purposes of demos, I have all 3 or 4. I even have WebEx, but I also have, as most users will just have one, and it will automatically default to the one that they use. It will save it to their calendar, and you can even add things like RSVP, attendee limits. Okay, so that's the share box. Beneath that, I have a news feed, and I've separated this into stories, posts, pages, and discovery. Stories is news, posts is social. Pages are editorialized content like the handbook, that kind of information, or the policies, the procedures. And the Discover tab is the idea of serendipity to improve my experience as a user. You can amalgamate all of these in one, but when I look at some of the tools out there, I find that end users get confused when they get social alongside editorialized content in their newsfeed. It's difficult to ascertain what is from the company and what is from your colleagues. And that's why I really like the ability to separate this out, and which is why I do that in my demos. Each piece of content is interactive. I can like, I can love, I can comment, I can share. And similarly, if this content was also on a digital screen, as you see here, it will automatically generate this QR code for me. I can scan that QR code and I can interact with it. In a moment, I'll publish an article, and if I hit a channel that has a device, it will automatically create a version like this, which will automatically generate that QR code as well. The administrator or the content creator doesn't have to do anything. They just choose a channel which is also assigned to an email newsletter or to a device, and it will do the hard work for them. It will also resize as well based on the screen that it's going to be displayed on. On the right-hand side is more of my personal productivity. It knows who I am, and this is it's a generative AI playlist that is all of the editorialized content that I'm yet to consume. And this is stories and pages that are for me that I can listen to in my AirPods or on my desktop as I'm sitting at work. And this works in any language. Now, this is a really key feature that most of our customers are now using, and there's a couple of reasons why. Even if this content was created in native SharePoint, we can take that content, enhance it, or in fact in Google or OpenText or wherever it might be, we can take it and we can distribute it, and the end user can now listen to it on the go. And that end user doesn't necessarily need to have a Microsoft license or a Google license. They can still just consume as long as they have an Appspace license. They can listen to it, they can like, they can love, they can share. Beneath that, I have a few more widgets. Specifically for me, it knows the office building that I'm in and gives me the Wi-Fi. I've got my bookmarks that I can come back to later in the day, and I've got some upcoming events. And as mentioned, these events could be physical or could be digital, and it will automatically generate that QR code for me, show me the desk, and I can also see who's going to be in the office that day. The last two are a couple of examples of what we call personal passports, or in this case, a whimsical widget. This is just a Spotify playlist that the end user can listen to as they're going about their day. We have customers that have their own podcasts, so we can add them here. And we also have, this is an example, so internally we actually have a Strava leaderboard so that we can all compete and see who's the fittest in the office. It's not me, interestingly enough, but there's some good examples of how these widgets are being used. And this last one is personal passport, the idea that the end user will federate once against ServiceNow or Workday or whatever it might be, and ultimately they will then get the information for them based on their role. Similarly, that works on search. So if I search, for example, for a handbook, I will get everything in the intranet, but I will also get everything that is available within any data source that is connected. In this case, SharePoint, and you can see here I've added SharePoint as a data source, or the administrator has, and I can actually filter just through those different data sources, Workday, SharePoint, whatever it might be. It's also permission trimmed, so I'm only finding content that I have access to do. There is a way that we can override permissions, let's say for a particular site collection or a folder, so you can actually negate the need for some of those frontline workers to have that SharePoint license, but still get that content in a specific site collection or library. And again, that works on search. Search, we also have federated search, that's a quick example of vectorized search and conversational AI within search as well. Okay, let's go and create a piece of content. I only have a few minutes left, I think 5 minutes. So I'm going to go and create a news story and show you how this can be distributed across the entire organization. I'm going to call this Why Music is, if I could type, that would be good. Why Music is Good. Oh my goodness, wasting time by not being able to type. Is good for the mind. I don't know. Let's see if that works. Okay, and then I'm going to copy and paste it, and I solve the problem of the blank page just by asking AI to help. And I'm going to say why music is good for the mind, an article about listening to music while you work. And let's get AI to have a go at that for me. In all honesty, when we look at this, most of our users will use AI to get started and then rewrite. I know I certainly do, but if I make it longer, it gives me a bit more to go at and change at a later time. Okay, I'm happy with that. That's fine. Of course, like any AI tool, I can change the tone. I can do some clever stuff here, and I can insert it. Now, because I've already written the body of text, and let me just get rid of that hash, if I ask AI to generate the image, it will do so on the body of text. And this exists throughout the whole platform. If I'm creating a post even, I can write a post and it will actually prompt and say, would you like AI to generate that image for you? Now, AI will generate the image. One other thing we've added is in the settings, in the administration settings that I showed you before, I can actually ground the AI or contextualize the AI, which allows it to know that I work for company X or Y. So let's say you work for a high fashion retailer. It will only create or shoes or whatever it is that matches your company guidelines and your logo and your schemes. You won't create competitive looking items of clothing. I'm happy with that, but I could have, of course, changed it, asked it to be more corporate or more cartoony or reprompted it or done whatever I like. Similarly, I can add in extra content. I could ask AI to create more images or generate more media. I can add videos and images. And this is what we call a headless CMS. So it's very, very easy to do. You can't really mess this up, unlike, for example, SharePoint. You can't have size 36 wingdings color purple. You're very limited to what you can do, but it will always look and feel nice no matter who's creating that content. If you do add images, of course, you can manually add images, or you can use AI. And if I add this one here, I can, of course, resize based on the parameters. I can have the text wrap around it, either side. I can have it as a breaker. So lots of different options. If I'm happy with the content and I think it's good to go, I can go and publish it, but it won't let me. And the reason it won't let me is there is governance built in. If I request review, somebody who reviews it will actually go and change it or edit it. I will then get some red line and I can either accept or reject the changes they've made. It will guide me through the process of creating this content, and I can ask for things like it to be featured. I can choose where it's delivered. If I add, for example, marketing, which has a large screen attached to the lobby, this will also automatically be published on the screen. And if I also add things like the global newsletter, it will also automatically add it into the email newsletter as well. So from one single place, I can reach users in Teams, in Slack, on digital screens, in the email newsletter as well. I can also do things like using AI to help with the translations. I can select the base language. So again, I pick on SharePoint because I've worked in the Microsoft ecosystem forever, but having multiple base languages is very difficult to do. And even if you do have multiple base languages, you can't, for example, add French Canadian. You can only have one version of French. So again, we're adding little things here. If you decide to choose both, that's fine. And you can also use AI to translate for you. You can add as many, in fact, you can add all of them at once, and it takes the same amount of time and saves them in the back end. Only when the user selects that language will they see that version, or it will always refer back to the default language. You can use AI to do things like add tags, again, based on the body of text that already exists. And again, this syncs very nicely with the term store. You can take content over from Microsoft or from other platforms and take those tags into the platform. Similarly, you can use it to do things like summaries and captions. And again, this works in any single language. Particularly useful if this would be a long policy or procedure. It gives you a nice little snippet, and also works with the audio generation. Again, we could request review, we could publish, and we could also turn social on or off. This can be done at a global level, a channel level, or an individual story level. For the purposes of demos, I do it at individual story level, but you can lock this down. We've got a lot of financial customers, so understanding how to govern this for the masses is a key component. Okay, so I'm going to publish this now. I think I only have, I think I'm at time already. So one last thing to show you before I end this is, of course, this will now be displayed on the digital screen. And in a second, you'll see that come over here and create using a QR code. It's also going to go to email. It's also going to go to Teams. In fact, it's not just going to go to Teams. It's also going to interrupt the actual Teams chat that I have. And you can see in a minute, it'll appear here. And if I refresh, it'll appear in the actual channel or the Teams team itself. And it'll appear over here as well in a second. Last thing is just to quickly look at some of the insights and the analytics. I mentioned this already, but every piece of content, regardless of where it's published, will garner these insights and analytics. In every story, in every channel, in every topic, in every community, we get these level of insights and analytics. Each one is clickable. Each asset is clickable. We can download it as a CSV or an XLSX, and there's a little key that explains exactly what you're seeing. It's granular enough to know individual users and the journey they have made. And you, of course, have the ability to do this at a community level. You have the ability to do this at a channel level, and you have the ability to do this at a story level. The very last thing I'm going to do is quickly look at one of the communities, because in all honesty, community is kind of the wrong name. A community for us is more of a hub. And the reason I say that is that you don't have to go in and have, for example, social. You can turn posts off. You can just have stories and pages, treat it like a magazine or a brochure. You can connect it to email editing. You can connect it to or push the content from each community or each channel into Teams or into SharePoint or even into Viva Engage. I don't necessarily think you should. That's a whole different discussion, one I don't have time for in the time. But these hubs, if you will, or these communities can be very, very flexible. You can have custom widgets in there. You can target widgets to different audiences. So there's an awful lot of flexibility. But the one thing I would say to remember is this product is designed to be frictionless. Anyone can curate this content. Anyone can administer it, and anyone can choose the look, the feel, and the layout. You don't need to be a coder. You don't need to be an engineer. It's designed for simplicity. And if all else fails, you go back to a single column, you start from there, and you grow out as you see fit. Thank you for watching. Hopefully this was useful. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to ask them. I'm very happy to answer any questions there are. And thanks again. Cheers.